there is such a thing as laughing through the discomfort where you're just like, okay, so, you just kind of move on. The cameras there's like 6 cameras in front of you. It's a hard thing to navigate.
I'm sure you haven't read Matt's book yet because it's been out for like 24 hours. And I don't know if you plan to, but I read it. And one of the big takeaways for him, and it's interesting also speaking to him, is he felt like he opened up a lot when he was filming the show with Rachel, with other contestants, and kind of laid it all out there, spoke about his family, spoke about being biracial, talked a lot, and he felt like none of it aired. So that's why the book is kind of sharing that. Did you feel like he, as a Bachelor, was like super open? Did you have any of those kind of conversations with him?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest disappointment for a lot of us. I get it. You have to condense things to, fit into the airtime, but there were so many meaningful conversations that should have aired that I think would have been the most impactful versus showing like the worst side of us, I feel. In certain situations that, we probably didn't need an entire episode and a half to go through, like I'd rather listen to his conversations with Maggie, who's an amazing woman. And, I had a very personal conversation with him as well about, his father and things like that. So it would have been nice to see that, but it is what it is, which is why I'm happy that he has chosen to go ahead and release a book, because now people get to see a whole other side to him that unfortunately no one could. And I think the funny thing for me too is always seeing people like, oh, the bloopers showed more personality than the entire season. And it's like, yes, like Matt and all of us are actually really funny people. Like we had a great time. So it was sad to not see that.
It's so crazy. And it's nice to hear that, because I've spoken to a few people from your season, and I don't want to, it's not like I'm not trying to be whatever, but like you guys, like it came off very catty. And I remember recapping it being like, is this the meanest group in like Bachelor history? And part of that is because out of sight, out of mind, right? Like as it's airing, you forget, oh, we've seen this film before, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just remember specifically, I was like, whoa, like I feel like we're going with a lot here, but it just, I guess because so much else was gone, it felt like that. Like when filming it, did you feel like it was fun?
I feel like it was fun, which is why I was so surprised that it didn't reflect the most. I mean, I think they showed like little moments, which were a good breather, but not long enough.
Yeah.
Like I think the biggest example, which I kind of mentioned it a moment ago, where, my whole 2-on-1 thing with MJ was like an entire episode or something.
Right.
It took up like a whole half of an episode and then went into the next one. And I was exhausted and I already went through it. So I could only imagine with the viewers who they're like eager to get on to the next thing. So yeah, but I think because it didn't reflect so well on the show, that's probably why I cherish those really great moments even more, because I know how things were in the house. And I know that we were all very sweet to each other. We were always goofing around, always having fun. So I mean, those are, I guess, our memories to keep then.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm sure, that always reflects too, like on Paradise, sometimes we'll see people interact. I'm like, oh, I thought they didn't like each other, but it's like, oh no, like they got past it. We just didn't see that part. Or,
yeah, I would see that a lot too. People saying, I honestly didn't think that they get along. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot that we don't see. And we have to remember that as viewers.
Right.
You mentioned MJ. That was the whole like JV versus varsity thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Which was like, it was said like offhand, like a few times. And I remember being like, what this feels weird. Cause it definitely made the environment feel more high school to me. And a lot of the other girls felt the same way. It was just kind of like uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people, really dug into us because they would catch us like laughing. And there is such a thing as laughing through the discomfort where you're just like, okay, so, you just kind of move on. The cameras there's like 6 cameras in front of you. It's a hard thing to navigate, but I don't know. I guess, those truths are something that's really just for us, I guess. There's only so much that we can show on TV.
Yeah. I know that season was also the season of Queen Victoria, who in real life, I do not. And she had some choice words not that long ago about the show. What were your interactions with her like? Is she different than what we saw on TV? Is she a little bit what you see is what you get? Yeah,
I think what people would be surprised to hear is she very much is a girl's girl. She was always very sweet to me, very sweet to the majority of the ladies. Now, I do believe that, especially at the time, I think she's actually much better at this now. But at the time, I think with that pressure, having the cameras around and a lot of different opinions circling, it was hard for her to kind of deal with it, I would say. So a lot of how she reacted, I feel, was just more so from emotional places, that perhaps she definitely could have handled better. I'm not saying that it was okay for anything that she said, but we all deal with things differently. And her now, though, I mean, I know she said that she hated the producers. I have to respectfully disagree on that, but at least I never had a negative experience with any of the producers. I'm actually, really great friends with one of them now who no longer is part of the show, but she, continues to do producing for other shows.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to me because a lot of times the majority, I would say, contestants come out with friendships with the producers, with each other and with the producers. And then there is every once in a while, like a cryptic Instagram or a not so cryptic Instagram. But the overall, it seems, and I know, some people will blame editing and there's so many layers and it's too a generalization, but I'm always fascinated by the friendship part of it because it's like in the moment you trust these people, but then like you don't always know, but then you also know you're making a show. Like it's just like a lot of factors.
No, yeah. And I think it's hard to navigate, especially right when you're in the thick of it, because like you said, you don't know what people's intentions are, or you don't know what they're trying to achieve by, approaching you with something and seeing how you would react or like, pushing buttons, that kind of thing. I think there are definitely people like that go on the show. There's no doubt about it. But I don't feel that I've personally dealt with anyone, at least no one's ever come at me just out of the blue. The MJ thing was something that was developing, and I think that was really the only person in Matt's season that I had an issue with. But I mean, things happen, they unfold the way they do, and it's hard to kind of know who's there for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's a reason they say it. When that season was airing and everything was kind of going down with Matt and Rachel and all the backlash, but then, them ending up back together and happy now, what surprised you the most about all of that? And are you like, what do you remember about kind of, because for your season, it was like a lot for you guys to also try to navigate and try to figure out what was going on. Because this was your friend, this was your bachelor, this was like, it's a lot.
Right. No, so I think I was not surprised by, Matt and Rachel getting back together again, for example. I honestly, truly believe, I was like, there's something there that I see her at least, getting to the very end, even if I, taking myself out of the equation or not even considering myself, I was like, I know she's going to be here till the end, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't surprise me that they later did reconnect, especially since I'm also basing my opinion off of my interactions with Rachel, and she's always been incredibly sweet. I could never, ever imagine that she'd be someone who was racist, for example. So I knew that there was something more to it than just a single photo was letting on,
right.
And she has later spoken about it herself, and she's in a significantly better position, and she's continued on with her life and she's still doing good things. Now, one thing that did surprise me after the show was, just the blatant racism within some of the fan base. I do think that there are members of Bachelor Nation, the fan base that are incredibly sweet. Almost to the point where it's overwhelming, but you appreciate, how much they enjoy the show and that they enjoyed seeing you, especially those that speak out about how they feel represented. Like that is the most wholesome for me. But then to, have really gross things sent to my DMs and even being called things like I was called a monkey after Paradise. I've never been called a monkey before in my life. So it's like, those were the two, so it's definitely an even scale there.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina Garibaldi, the host of Us Weekly Celebrity Coverage. Don't forget to hit subscribe for the latest celebrity news, tips, and video. And for much more content, make sure you head on over to usmagazine.com, the official home of Us Weekly Magazine.